Last week, White House Trade Counselor Peter Navarro walked into the Council on Foreign Relations and delivered a declaration of war against the British Empire's control over American policy. And a few days later, Donald Trump signed a rare earth minerals deal with Australia that the mainstream media is telling you is aimed at China. But here's what they're not telling you. That deal is really aimed at dismantling Britain's centuries-old imperial grip on Australia and spreading Trump's America First dominance. Now, not a lot of attention was paid to Navarro's CFR speech. It's just another speech about tariffs and bringing back manufacturing. And as far as Trump's Australia deal, the talking heads will tell you that this is all about challenging China over critical materials. But that misses the deeper strategic reality. The CFR confrontation and the Australia deal are not separate moves. They're two coordinated strikes in the same war against the British imperial system. When you connect these two developments with what's been happening since Trump's return to power, the Mideast peace breakthrough, his challenge to Europe's perpetual war policies, his confrontation with the Fed, a clear strategy emerges. I'm Susan Kokinda, and since the end of the Bretton Woods system in 1971, I've tracked how the British Empire and the City of London reasserted control over the world economy, rebranding it as globalism. And what we're witnessing right now is the first real challenge to that imperial system in the entire post-war era. Most people, including a lot of Trump supporters, often miss the forest for the trees. If you understand how important it is to get above the trees, please like and subscribe so that we can build our audience and more people will see the forest. So today I'm going to show you how two recent developments reveal Trump's grand strategy. First, why Peter Navarro's speech to the CFR was actually a declaration of war against British control over American policy and the institutions that have enforced it. And second, why Trump's rare earth deal with Australia is aimed primarily at Great Britain and not China. And by the end of this video, you'll understand the real war that's being fought and why the British elite are more terrified now than they have been at any point since the American Revolution. Peter Navarro didn't just give a speech at the Council on Foreign Relations. He marched into one of the most powerful institutions of British imperial control in the United States and punched them right in the nose.
I'd like to thank the Council on Foreign Relations for this kind invitation. After all, it's not every day I get to speak before an audience that has opposed nearly every policy I've ever helped advance in the White House. But let's be honest with each other. CFR has been uniformly anti-tariff and anti-Trump and highly skeptical of an America First foreign policy that, in truth, is restoring our trade balance, rebuilding our industrial base, strengthening alliances like NATO, keeping, and as we just saw in the Middle East, negotiating the broader peace, and reasserting American sovereignty on the world stage.
Navarro accused the CFR of embodying an ideology that is, quote, comfortably wedded with Wall Street and the multinational corporations that love open borders, cheap offshore labor, and an endless stream of subsidized imported goods. Now, what made this speech even more enjoyable is that the CFR's current president, Michael Froman, was sitting right in front of Navarro. Froman was Barack Obama's trade negotiator and negotiated the infamous Trans-Pacific Partnership, which Navarro went scorched earth on.
Then came the Trans-Pacific Partnership, forgive me here, Mike. CFR sold it as a geopolitical rampart against a rising China, yet the TPP would have surrendered much of America's manufacturing base, including our crucial auto and auto parts sectors, to Japan, Vietnam, and ironically, ultimately, China itself. President Trump saw this very clearly and tore up the TPP on day one. I was standing right behind him on that beautiful day. This is what the Council on Foreign Relations has never understood. Weakening our industrial base has never strengthened our strategic position. It has only invited aggression. That's why in Trump world, we do not trade off economic security for national security. We believe economic security is national security. Memo to CFR, you cannot project power if you surrendered production. You cannot deter aggression when your supply chains run through your opponent's ports. You can't lead the free world if you can't make what the free world needs.
Now, I'll give Navarro a diplomatic pass when he says that the CFR has never understood. They understand exactly what they're doing. Because the Council on Foreign Relations is a creation of the British Round Table, founded in 1922 to smother the American tradition in economics and foreign policy and to bring the United States back into the British imperial fold. Coming out of World War I, the Round Table spawned two organizations. The British arm, known as the Royal Institute for International Affairs, and it's commonly known as Chatham House. I want you to remember that name. And then in 1922, the CFR, its American arm. The CFR's mission, to bring the United States back into alignment with imperial policy after we had strayed too far after that unfortunate thing called the American Revolution. And the British were largely successful. Most presidents just obeyed. But the presidents who bucked it got assassinated, shot at, Watergated, or couped. Now, one of the things that makes Promethean Action so unique is that we have exposed the British hand in all of this. We wrote the ebook, It's the British Who Murder Our Presidents, and we don't just use brand names like Deep State. We look at the historical and philosophical underpinnings of this fight between the British Empire and the American Republic and how it plays out in economics, statecraft, and culture. Now, a significant part of Navarro's speech focused on America's supply chain vulnerabilities in strategic materials. Navarro contrasted Trump's economic nationalism with the globalists' free trade dogma, as he called it, the same dogma that's made the world dangerously dependent on Chinese processing of rare earths. Now, most people will stop there and think, okay, so this is about challenging China and bringing manufacturing back to America. Well, that's true. But it's not the deeper story. Because a few days after Navarro delivered that speech, Donald Trump gave a demonstration of exactly how he's replacing the British model with the American system. And that's where the Australia deal comes in, but probably not for the reasons you think. When President Trump met with Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in the Oval Office on Monday and signed an $8.5 billion deal to process rare earths and strategic minerals in Australia. The establishment media is focused on that agreement as a counter to China. But I'm going to show you what nobody else is telling you. This deal is a precision strike against British imperial control. Let's start with what the Australian Prime Minister said, because tucked away in his comments in the Oval Office is a key to understanding what's really happening.
Australia has had a view for some time, a bit similar to putting America first. Right. Our plan's called A Future Made in Australia, which is about not just digging things up and exporting them, but how do we make sure that we have across the supply chains with our friends being able to benefit, seize those opportunities. So we certainly see part of what this is about isn't just digging things up, it's also about processing, including the joint ventures between Australia and the United States.
Did you catch that phrase? Quote, not just digging things up and exporting them, but processing them. And joint industrial ventures between the United States and Australia in Australia. In other words, Donald Trump is offering Australia a partnership based on mutual industrial development, not just imperial extraction. So why is that important? Well, here's a good example. Australia is the world's largest lithium producer, 52% of the global supply, but it produces almost none of it. They dig it up, ship it to China, and then buy back the batteries at a huge markup. Now, China's been kind of late to this game, but this is what the British have been doing for centuries, using political or economic control to extract raw materials, stifle industrial development, and keep countries perpetually dependent on foreign manufacturing. I think that's why we fought the American Revolution. Australia has been in this paradigm, though, for more than 150 years, and for most of that time, It hasn't been the Chinese doing it. In fact, the British have been pretty brutal when it comes to keeping Australia in its place as a raw materials producer. Let me tell you what happened 50 years ago, the last time an Australian Prime Minister tried to exert economic sovereignty over Australian resources. Because what happened to Gough Whitlam in 1975 is key to understanding why this Trump deal is so threatening to London. Australia's natural resources were owned by British mining companies like Rio Tinto Zinc, BHP, and other Anglo-Dutch corporations, which were all intertwined with the British monarchy and the elites. Prime Minister Whitlam had a plan for, quote, resource nationalism, unquote, to give Australia control over its natural resources, to process them in Australia, and to use that wealth for the benefit of Australians. He was also looking to the Mideast to independently finance this, which didn't make the City of London very happy. So the empire struck back. In November 1975, the Crown-appointed Governor General, Sir John Kerr, did the unprecedented. He dismissed the democratically elected prime minister and unilaterally installed the opposition leader as caretaker. Tens of thousands protested in the streets, but it didn't matter, because Sir John had used the reserve powers of the Crown to remove a prime minister who threatened British imperial control of Australia's resources. So Donald Trump just offered Australia exactly what Whitlam tried to do: industrial development and economic sovereignty. But here's the difference. Whitlam was trying to do it alone in Australia. Trump is offering American partnership and investment in Australia as part of a broader strategy to dismantle British financial control. Britain can't use the Governor General to fire the President of the United States. They've certainly tried other means: impeachments, the 2020 election, lawfare, assassinations. But because we're a constitutional republic and not a British satrap, they've failed. And now they can't stop Australia from accepting American partnership instead of British extraction. Now, there's one more fun fact tying all of this together. During yesterday's Oval Office press session, Trump was asked about Australia's current ambassador to the United States, Kevin Rudd, who had previously called Trump, quote, the most destructive president in American history, a village idiot, and a traitor to the West. Trump shot back publicly in the Oval Office, I don't like you either, and I probably never will. Now, I hope you're not surprised when I tell you that Ambassador Rudd is a senior advisor at Chatham House, the sister organization to the CFR that Navarro just eviscerated. Trump and his team are systematically confronting the institutional network of British imperial control. So let's connect all the dots. Navarro walks into the CFR and declares their era of policy control is over. 3 days later, Trump signs a deal that restructures Australia's economic relationship away from British imperial extraction and toward American industrial partnership. These aren't separate tactical moves. They're coordinated strikes in the same strategic war. So if you want to have a general's view of the battlefield, you should join Promethean Action's community. Become a paying member or make a contribution.
Hi there, Neil here, the Twisted Lightworker. Today is October the 22nd, and there's so much going on, and everything that I've been saying for the last 5 years in my videos, some 300 videos later, I've been bang on with everything. And that particular talk was proof once again that I've been bang on. Look at this. Way back in 7 months ago, so 7 months ago, I did this talk, and it was called Country Pride. And if you look right over there, you'll see I had the Australian flag right there. Country Pride, Canadian flag, Australian flag, all going underneath the Republic of the United States. It's happening. Let's go back just a few months back, and Trump had the parade in Washington, D.C., and the military were given extra honors while they were there, and they walked in. What was that? Look at the symbolism to that one. Washington, D.C. is no longer a separate entity. It's part of the Republic of the United States. It has been taken over. And that parade was all about the display that things are happening. 7 months ago when I made that video, I knew that from Trump's capitulation tour way back in his first term when he walked ahead of the Queen and he sat in Winston Churchill's chair. There's been signs all along that the evil empire, the globalist agenda is all being taken down. Trump said that he was going to drain the swamp and he was going to return power back to the people. He said that in 2016, and the power is dribbling back to the people one moment at a time. Some people are thinking that it's not happening fast enough. Have you any idea the scope and magnitude of this operation that's going on? The Q plan that was planned from pre-JFK assassination attempt of way back in the 60s? How do I know? JFK's monument has a Q around it. Lady Di, Princess Diana, her monument has a Q around it. Putin has a Q in his courtyard. The globalists are being eradicated from the whole Earth realm. And these are amazing times, and the best is yet to come. And, you know, there's absolutely no time to be impatient about what's going on, because the size of this operation is so massive and so well planned. It's just absolutely phenomenal how it's all coming together. But what does that mean for you and I? That means power being returned back to the people. That means we are the ones that have to step up to the plate. We're not relying on the white hats and Trump and the military of all of the countries that are involved in this worldwide takedown of the globalist empire. No, it's you and I. The military, they'll do their part, and they've been doing their part. Now it's up to us to do our part. Now, what is our part? Our part is most interesting. And let's read this Toltec quote, because I've studied ancient metaphysics and Toltec and spiritualism for like 45 years. Is on top of going down rabbit holes since the 90s and looking for the truth in conspiracy theories. I've been at this a long time. And this is the Toltec quote from Mark Cloudfoot Gershon. A warrior seeks personal power not to influence the affairs of the people or the world. A warrior seeks personal power only to get where one is going, and that is to freedom. And to achieve freedom, it is necessary to give it to the affairs of people and the world. What's Trump and the White Hats doing? Exactly that. Trump the warrior, Putin the warrior, Xi the warrior. They're not seeking personal power to influence the affairs of the world. They're seeking it to achieve freedom. And for them to get that freedom, they have to give it to the affairs of people and the world. That's a powerful quote. Why don't you just screenshot that and keep it in your repertoire and look at it once in a while and consider what Trump is doing and pay attention to what this military operation is. Now we have evidence that the Queen was gone, of course. The King, King Charles, how did he lose like 4 to 6 inches when he was walking beside Trump? How come Trump and Melania had royal purple colors? Trump had a royal purple tie and Melania had a royal purple hat. The clues are presented for anybody who has observation skills, and that's important to develop. We're in the process of turning this whole Earth realm into something that's beautiful beyond our capabilities to really foresee at this time. So many people are caught up on just their own personal intake of that, their bank account, their own personal life. You guys, this is huge. This is worldwide. The whole world's going to make a change. Don't just think about yourself. Think about your neighbor. Do you even know your neighbor? Get to know the people on your block. The globalist agenda did a really good job of pitting us against each other, and all we did was get up, go to work, come home, watch TV, get up, go to work, come home, watch TV till Friday night, and then we'd go party or whatever. And the weekend we dreaded going back to work on Monday. The whole thing's changing. Nothing's going to be the same. And it's all going to be absolutely amazing. Why? Because God won. Light won. We the people are taking back our power. And if that's the case, then we better start working on ourselves and become a little bit more in personal power. We need to uptake our own personal power to match what's really going on around us. It's up to us. We're the ones that are going to be creating heaven on earth. The path has been cleared for us. Are you ready to get up off the couch and do your part? I did a video. I'll put the link down below. There's 17 steps of what you can do to make a difference. Right here, right now. You don't have to wait until the silver has made you a bunch of money or gold has made you a bunch of money. You don't have to wait for any of that. You can do all those 17 steps. I'll put the link down below. You can do all those 17 steps right now. No need to wait. No need to wait whatsoever, because by 2030, our agenda is going to be in full operation. And the more of us that get off the couch, the better the operation is going to be come 2030. And we're going to thrive and be happy, and I call that thrivalism. I've been calling it thrivalism since 2017. This is an amazing time. This is the best time, the most amazing and best time this whole Earth realm has ever seen. And it may be the best time in humanity's history for eons and centuries ahead. This is a time that's going to be remembered, where we took back our power and realized the divinity that's inside. My metaphysical and spiritual and Toltec training gives me the absolute certainty with all kinds of experiences that part of God that's inside me is also inside you. Every single cell of our bodies is imbued with the DNA, and in the DNA there's the code that connects us right to God, right to Source. And so from that spark of the divine that's inside me to that spark of the divine that's inside you, I encourage you to stand up and become more. Use that power. God hath not given the spirit of fear, but of love and of power and sound mind. People forget about love, power, and sound mind. They get hung up on just the love and they get emotional. What about the power of the sound mind? What about the power of who we are to make a difference? Let's do it. And so from that spark of the divine that's inside me, I reach out to that spark of the divine that's right inside you, and I wish for you peace profound.